Welcome to my story 13, where I left you in time of my story was 2006. I had been writing and what I call screen planning, a screen plan, Bill Starr's The Next Big Things, where Bill Starr starts to describe on an internet-based TV show. Actually, it's an online multiplayer game show in which people earn points, earn stars for answering questions about the future, questions about all of the next big things in history, questions that reveal Socratically, well, truth. But anyway, so the subject of today, actually, it's sort of noteworthy. Of the next big things, I identified 13 as the computer. And that's very interesting. And those of you who remember 1, identified as monopoly, 3 as democracy. See, the computer and monopoly and democracy, especially with 16. Well, 16 was the internet, but the internet is just a platform to what lies beyond which is what I call the confluence of convergence. And, well, that's what I'm going to discuss today. The confluence of convergence. A confluence of convergence of technologies that are beyond most of your minds. Actually, a confluence of convergence not just of technology, but in the process to how we manage our entire global enterprise. Now, many of you, especially since this is election level and just weeks before the political election in America, are choosing between Obama and Romney. Well, if I had to choose, well, I don't have to choose. Ultimately, neither will, in the long run, deliver salvation. But, well, why? Because our national systems, our economic world was designed to fail. And anyway, I don't want to go a long ways into that whole notion, but the notion that I previously discussed was the notion of a single global enterprise with its own currency. Now, that doesn't mean one giant monolithic business. No, that's more like a holding company, where we, the people of Earth.biz, owns all the great enterprises and the resources in our own monetary system, and we own responsibility for the people. And that's going to become important as you understand the future technology, because we worry about jobs today in a jobless world, with globalization moving our physical jobs to China and India. But see, when you start hearing about what I imagineered in the confluence of convergence, just projecting your technology futures and the future of your society, I saw something very interesting here. Because, see, the internet disintermediated all of the previous barriers to people taking control of their own destiny. And I don't want to get ahead of myself, but basically, it's possible in the future that people could rise up as a virtual nation across national boundaries and create a virtual nation of us. I called it back then the United Worlds of Harmony Star, imagining it might be world nations of worlds outside of this world, but that's just imagineering beyond, well, into Spielberg realm. But anyway, the point is this. Okay, so you could create a virtual nation to take out all the real nations. But ultimately, I want the real nations to join in this whole thing. And that's sort of part of the exercise. But what we have to know about the future of technology is that it will change everything. And the future of process changes everything. Now, one of the futures of process that changes everything that I'll just point out, well, if you do what I said, which was the notion, let's say you just said this: I'm going to pay 1.5 times the value of every equity on the planet. I'll buy Apple and Google. I'll buy GE. I'll buy all of them. I'll buy companies we don't even need. When I say I, that's we, the people of Earth.biz. We'll buy them all. And what we do, we'll restructure them all. See, this is what Wall Street calls investing investment banking, they sort of get ideas together like Bain Galt will do this and refinance this and da-da-da-da-da and make money. But for other half, we did it all at once. Now, many of you say we have antitrust laws that allow nothing like that. Well, I will ultimately, I could prove to you that antitrust is antitrust, it's anti-consumer, because in my world of the future, the people of Earth, the people of the United States, the people of all nations, own the enterprise WeThePeopleOfEarth.biz, and therefore, well, we must also have an enlightened view of the customer, and that would be built into the technology future that I imagine here. Now, when you imagine a technology future in which you take out the enterprises, and by the way, all of the banks, because we'll create one, well, we could create banks for your typical things, banks for banking business. Actually, what do we do with all those investment bankers? We put them back into our enterprise and evaluate our best options. Because, see, part of where we make lots and lots of progress here is taking all of our intellectual property and all of our best engineers and restructuring them and restating them and say, listen, instead of trying to do all the things of the past, you see, this is the problem of your own view. You're all running the world through your rear view mirrors, and you're looking backward to see forward. That's like trying to see the future with your head up your ass. What you see is a lot of shit there. That's why politics looks like that. You're trying to see the future through that head up your you-know-what. And the point is, if you look through your forward view, then you'll see a far different future that we could imagine here. A future in which, well, if we had our own banking monetary transactional system and we tied it into our own bonded system of delivering satisfaction, well, then we could start to self-police transactions and provide a much safer virtual commerce throughout the world, and actually integrate real commerce and virtual commerce in ways that you can't even imagine. So, let me just talk to you a little bit about the technology future I imagined. See, way back before '05, I started imagining what's the future of what lies beyond computers and cell phones, and I was studying real estate and like this cost of screens, which is a big part of your computers, big part of your TV cost is the cost, the size of the screen. The bigger the screen, well, the more the view, but the higher the cost. But then I discovered in my head what could be, well, a real cost-effective solution in my mind was iPhones. See, put the screens next to your eyes, the costs go down dramatically, and we can put in real 3D, we can add in sound, we can in computing capabilities and put on cameras, we could put smell in there if you want. We actually would change the paradigm of how you view the world. Now, what would an iPhone let you see? But you could instantiate virtual keyboards there, but no. See, imagine the iPhone as not only the portal to information, or not only the ability to translucently overlay information on top of the real world in which you wander through. Imagine the iPhone as a path to a virtual, well, certainly you can imagine doing FaceTime in your eyes, but imagine it is a path to like what lies beyond Google Earth. See, imagine a real-time, real-world Google Earth, where you could fly through your iPhones anywhere in the world. You could actually fly on a magic carpet, or fly in a virtual car. Why would you want to do that? Well, sometimes, well, in translating our actions here in real space to virtual space, you might want to sit down doing it. Well, if I'm sitting down here in real space, if I'm sitting down in virtual space, like flying on a magic carpet, or flying on I could be standing up or flying on a surfboard through space. You see, it becomes almost limited from reality to fantasy. And that gets interesting and weird. In fact, what gets really strange is we could start to plan a reality in the future, and then you wouldn't know. We could program possible realities and then play them. Now, let me describe to you some of what I envision this means, well, for the future of jobs. Because, see, when you have these virtual iPhones, not only could we globalize, by the way, when we eliminate processes like banking and investment banking and fighting each other like Wall Street, playing like casino games, and instead of trading ourselves trade together, we change lots of processes, eliminate lots of jobs as we know them. See, the world of the future will eliminate lots of jobs. Technology will eliminate lots of jobs. And fewer people with capital. Ultimately, we have a problem there. So we must find a way when investment capital gets back to the people. And that's where my notion that everybody owns a piece of the world. And that's where if you buy everybody out of their interest, everybody gets profits. See, I almost imagine it like, imagine all the guys struggling now. See, back in 2005, 2006, most of you didn't even think we had a problem on Wall Street, that it was upside down and fixed. But see, imagine if all of a sudden, all of the middle-class Americans and all of the Europeans and the wealthy developed nations of the world, the retirement ages were coming down, the retirement packages were secured, and well, imagine them retiring out faster, not slowing. And then, well, ultimately, that would give a jolt to the economy, new jobs to the new, younger generation, and then we start the income flowing. But here's the thing. We must envision a people where the people get a part of the profits. And in this thing, the people would get a profits of our enterprises. And that would be part of a virtuous circle of profits. That's why I envisioned myself in this movie to become the prophet of profits. The prophet of profits, I must emphasize, goes both ways. Anyway, so here's the deal. Okay, so imagine this. So, see, for some of you, if you imagine technology where you could create not only moving people from, well, China, well, it might not work in America unless they spoke English, but from China or from India, and imagine these people showing up virtually and being able to virtually show up and provide you services and goods and information and knowledge. Well, it starts to change the paradigms. Imagine virtual labor across space and time, where virtual labor, where somebody could practice a trade in Alaska. Well, there's nothing that would keep a psychologist from keeping his practice over virtual space. Well, that's pretty crazy, but see, imagine the border implications of labor when cheap Indian labor is able to cross into a virtual domain which is not controlled by any nation, a virtual domain out of control of the nations. Actually, that's why I imagined a virtual domain, actually a virtual domain, moving the internet off the internet, using the foundation of the internet to move the internet, move the center of the internet into a place where the people own it, where the nations don't control it, but the people own it. But anyway, the point is this: technology is going to allow the transfer of information and labor knowledge, and, well, the pricing of that will start to have an impact on the monopolies that some of those people enjoy. Now, there's also some crazy things in retail. You could actually shop virtual retail people, and those retail people from different nations could just shop virtually. And we have the technology today to allow you to check yourselves in and out of stores with your smart iPhones and RFID tags on the products and goods that you buy. Oh, the virtual peopleless world is, well, that's the future when you look through the forward view. A world where fewer and fewer workers are needed. Well, that's a world, well, that we must imagine there must change from what we know today. You just can't extrapolate the past. You can't extrapolate the rear view to the future. More later.